There are moments when the mask of empire slips, not with a bang, but with the quiet hum of a business transaction that exposes the entire imperial project as a farce. We are living in such a moment, and it comes to us courtesy of a Reuters news flash. Nvidia is ordering another 300,000 H20 AI chips from TSMC, specifically to satisfy robust China demand. This news is not just a headline, it's a symptom of a deep sickness, a rot at the very core of American global strategy. For decades, the foundation of U.S. hegemony wasn't just its aircraft carriers, but its technological dominance. An unspoken consensus reigned in Washington. The world would run on American-designed software, use American-architected chips, and pay a perpetual digital tribute in the form of licensing fees and royalties. This was the structure of modern empire, clean, profitable, and absolute. The goal was never to compete, it was to command. Any nation that dared to build its own alternative was to be isolated, sanctioned, and kneecapped. Its technological ascent declared a threat to national security. And now, that entire edifice of control is collapsing under the weight of its own arrogance and incompetence. The Nvidia H20 deal is the punchline to a very sick joke. To understand the sheer madness of this situation, you have to see three things clearly: the self-defeating hypocrisy of the sanctions regime, the staggering technical ignorance that drives it, and the very real strategic self-harm it inflicts upon the United States itself. First, the theater of hypocrisy. The story of the AI chip sanctions is a masterclass in chaos. It began with a simple, arrogant premise: that the U.S. could act as a global gatekeeper, precisely dictating the level of technology another sovereign nation was permitted to possess. In late 2022, the Biden administration drew a line in the sand, banning Nvidia from selling its top-tier A100 and H100 AI chips to China. The message was clear: your technological progress stops here. So, a company like Nvidia, bound by law, did exactly what it was told. It brilliantly engineered downgraded compliance chips, the H800 and A800, that respected the legal performance threshold. They followed the rules of the empire. But in an empire in decline, obeying the rules is often seen as an act of defiance. By October 2023, Washington, in a fit of pique, banned those chips too. The message was no longer about a specific performance line. It was a crude display of power. This forced Nvidia back to the drawing board, leading to the creation of the even more neutered H20 chip, designed painstakingly to fit through the ever-shrinking regulatory keyhole. For months, even its sale was held up by the DC bureaucracy. Then suddenly the floodgates open. An effective ban imposed in April is reversed in the summer. Why? The official reason is almost too absurd to print: magnets. Apparently, the existential threat of Chinese AI, a threat so grave it warranted rewriting global trade rules, can be negotiated away in exchange for access to rare earth minerals. This isn't strategy. This is the flailing of a confused power. 1 minute, it's a crusade to save the free world from technological damnation. The next, it's a horse trade. This is the DC game in its purest form, where national security is a bargaining chip and long-term strategy is sacrificed for short-term political posturing and the whispers of corporate lobbyists. But if the hypocrisy is maddening, it's the profound ignorance behind it that is truly terrifying. This brings us to the core of the joke. The entire Washington sanctions regime is built on a fundamental misunderstanding of the technology it seeks to control, a misunderstanding that the Beltway bubble either doesn't recognize or, more cynically, prays that you don't. It's the critical difference between AI training and AI inference. Training is the part that fuels the nightmares of DC think tankers. It's the monumental task of creating a large language model from scratch. It involves taking a mountain of data, pouring it into a supercomputer cluster packed with thousands of the most powerful GPUs on the planet, and hitting the go button. You might wait weeks and burn millions of dollars in electricity for a new foundational model to be born. This requires an immense concentration of cutting-edge resources. This is what Washington is obsessed with stopping. They believe if they can control this one process, they can control the future of AI. This is a profound analytical error. After a model is trained, it must be used. That process is called inference. Inference is the workhorse of the AI economy. It's a traffic camera identifying a license plate, a phone translating your speech in real time, a server scanning medical images for anomalies. Inference is where 99% of the real-world, economically valuable AI work happens. And it needs good, efficient chips, but not necessarily the absolute bleeding-edge, record-breaking ones. The H20 is perfectly, wonderfully suited for inference at a massive scale. Do you see the absurdity now? The entire multi-billion-dollar export control regime is a fortress built to defend against a single type of attack, while leaving the main gate wide open. They are trying to ban the specialized knives used to invent a Michelin star recipe, while China is mass-producing the forks, spoons, and plates needed to serve 1 billion people. The policy isn't just missing the point. It is a colossal waste of energy, aimed at the wrong target entirely. And this technical ignorance runs even deeper. The true, lasting power of a company like Nvidia isn't just its hardware. It's the software ecosystem known as CUDA. CUDA is the language, the set of tools, that developers have used for over a decade to build AI applications. It's the deep, protective moat around Nvidia's castle. By focusing exclusively on banning hardware, Washington has created the strongest possible incentive for China to do the one thing that truly threatens American dominance: build its own software moat. This brings us to the final act of this tragedy, the strategic self-harm. This policy isn't just failing to stop China. It is actively helping it while simultaneously alienating America's own allies. Every time Washington introduces another layer of chaotic, unpredictable restrictions, it sends a powerful message to every AI developer and company in China. You cannot rely on American technology. Your business is subject to the whims of a foreign government. This uncertainty is the best gift the U.S. could possibly give to a domestic rival like Huawei. With every new sanction, Huawei's pitch for its own Ascend chips and software architecture becomes more compelling. Washington is not just allowing China to build an alternative ecosystem, it is forcing it to. Furthermore, this exertion of American power extends far beyond China. The U.S. claims the extraterritorial right to tell companies in the Netherlands, Japan, and South Korea who they can and cannot sell to. Dutch lithography giant ASML and Japanese chemical suppliers are forced to comply with American laws, often at great cost to their own businesses. This is the textbook definition of imperial overreach. It breeds deep resentment and accelerates efforts by America's own allies to create de-Americanized supply chains to insulate themselves from the chaos of Washington's policies. The empire is demanding loyalty while proving itself to be an unreliable and erratic leader. So, what is the endgame here? What is the actual, tangible threat that this entire self-defeating project is meant to prevent? The silence from government officials on this question is deafening. They offer only vague buzzwords about the weaponization of AI. But what does that truly mean in a practical sense? The nightmare scenario they implicitly paint is one where a Chinese hypersonic missile might be able to, what? Recalculate its trajectory with slightly more efficiency? Does a kinetic weapon really need the latest Blackwell architecture to perform its function? The very question reveals the hollowness of the premise. In the absence of a coherent explanation, there is only the spectacle of a confused empire, clinging to the old tools of brute economic force in a new age that requires finesse and competition. It's a government fighting a war with itself, enacting policies that accelerate the rise of the very rival it fears, all while alienating the allies it needs. And so, we are left to watch this theater of the absurd, questioning the very nature of the narrative we are being sold. Are we at war with Oceania? Have we always been at war with Oceania? Or are we, in fact, Oceania, an empire so lost in its own propaganda and so terrified of its own decline that it can no longer distinguish between a show of strength and an act of self-destruction? The lines get blurry when the logic disappears entirely.